What translation of the Bible do you use, and how did you get to the point that you use that translation? This is a question that I saw Matthew Everhard ask on his YouTube channel here a couple of weeks ago. And it was an intriguing question for me because the Bible translation that I use today is not the Bible translation that I started on. It's not even the translation that I was first given when I was first given a Bible. So I want to explore my progress through Bible translations today. Well, welcome to the channel. My name is Bill Anderson. I have the privilege and honor of serving as the senior pastor of Berea Baptist Church in Fredericksburg, Virginia. We're a church that exists to draw a broken and hurting world to a gracious and loving Heavenly Father. If you're looking for a church like that, we would love to have you join us if you're ever in the Fredericksburg area. So how did you get to the Bible translation that you use today? For me, that's been kind of a long journey. The first Bible that I was ever given was this Bible right here, and I was given this Bible in 1997. Now, this is a Thomas Nelson King James Bible, and this is a Bible that my parents gave to me October 10th, 1997. Now, the interesting thing with this is we were not the church-going family. We didn't, as far as I remember up to that point, didn't really even have a Bible in the home, not one that was out and was visible and we read. So to get this Bible, I didn't really understand what the Bible was, didn't understand what the Bible was about, was not really interested in reading the Bible. So I was given this Bible, but this Bible would sit on a shelf for over 10 years before I would open it for the first time. It would sit on the shelf for almost 15 years before I really started to ever read this particular edition of the Bible. So if I never really used this Bible, what was the first real Bible that I used? Well, the first real Bible that I used was this NIV Life Application Study Bible. This was the first Bible that I got after I became a Christian. Someone recommended getting a good life application study Bible or another good study Bible of that kind. And this is the one I got. I got it in NIV because I checked with the church that we were going to at the time that I came to faith, and this was the translation that they used for preaching. So this is the Bible I picked up. I picked up another NIV thin line that I used a little bit, but this was really the Bible that I turned to because this had notes to explain what it was I was reading. And I used this Bible a lot. Actually, if you look in the back, some of the maps and stuff are starting to fall out because I use this Bible so much. I love this Bible. I was discipled in this Bible. There's notes and highlights and stuff as I worked through this Bible for the next several years. Now, as I started to get involved in helping with our Celebrate Recovery ministry and our Alpha ministry and kind of started to help teach and lead some groups, I started to explore other Bibles. I got some other NIVs in 2015 and 2016 that I used on and off, but I kept coming back to this Bible. And I used this Bible basically from the time that I came to faith in 2013 until I was introduced to some other translations in 2018, which brings me to my next Bible. The next Bible that I used was the Christian Standard Bible that I was introduced to in 2018. Now, in 2018, some things about my theology and the influences that I was having started to change a little bit. And I actually got introduced to two different translations at the same time. So I got introduced to the Christian Standard Bible, and I got introduced to the English Standard Version, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But because of the church that we were going to and the things that I was trying to do at that time, the Christian Standard Bible was really the one that I started to kind of run with for the next several years. This Bible is actually the Bible that I used to teach in our Celebrate Recovery ministry. This is the Bible that I preached for the very first time at a church near our home, the church that my now wife, at the time girlfriend, was going to. Actually, when I preached for the first time, she was my wife. We had just gotten married, and it was the church that she had been going to. Now she was going to church with me. But that was the first time I preached, and this is the Bible that I used. In fact, actually, there's a funny thing. Somewhere in this Bible, there's a gum wrapper that she gave me to use as kind of a bookmark. There was a place I was trying to mark, and she wrote a little note on it, and it stayed in here. And it's in this Bible somewhere because I used to see it all the time when I would use this Bible. But this is where I also started to get introduced to really starting to engage with writing in the Bibles. You can see there's some notes there, underlines, there's highlights. Here's in Luke, where again, I was writing in the Bible, highlighting, marking it all up. This is the Bible that I really, for the first time, started to teach a ton out of. Celebrate Recovery, first couple of times that I preached. Again, here in Matthew, some notes and stuff. So this Bible really became a companion of mine for several years. And this was one of the first CSB thin line reference editions. So it's got the center column references. This was one of the first editions. They did it in this really soft, but it almost feels fake leather. They call it genuine or premium leather is what I think they call it. But I used this Bible for several years until we left the church that we were going to at that time because of some changes that we were having with theology and what we were looking for in a church. And I was looking to go into ministry. We left that church and went to another church. And when I went to that church, they were using the English Standard Version, which is when I switched to a version that I'd been studying with on and off again for several years. So while I was using the Christian Standard Bible for my everyday ministry, I was using the English Standard Version for a lot of my study and reading through, and I was just using it on and off. It was a translation I really enjoyed. So when we moved to that new church, we jumped over to the English Standard Version. And this was the Bible that I used more than any other for the next several years that we were at that church. And when I first got to the church that I'm at now. Now, this is where it starts to get a little messy because with the move to the new church and changing of translations, I got into a Bible frenzy. This was about the time, just before getting this Bible, was about the time that I ran into Matthew Everhard's YouTube channel, got introduced to different kinds of Bibles, premium Bibles, wide margin Bibles, and I went on a Bible buying frenzy. Now I've got more Bibles than I know what to do with. And I really started to explore with some of the different Bibles. So when I talk about being in the ESV for the next several years, this is the day-to-day Bible that I was using. But when I would preach, I would try other Bibles. I'd try other Bibles for day-to-day reading. I had a lot of different Bibles that I tried. But this Bible was my go-to companion because I could write notes in it. And for the next several years, the date in this is actually... So I bought this Bible when I finished my bachelor's degree in May of 2019. So we were actually still at our old church when I first bought this Bible, but I didn't really use it a whole lot until we went to that new church. And then that's when it really started to get used day after day for the next several years. When I came to Berea in 2022, the senior pastor at the time was using the New American Standard Bible, which I'm okay with, not a huge fan of. I continued to use the English Standard Version in our student ministry and when I would preach here at the church for the next several years. Honestly, if I had to pick a favorite translation, Bill, what is your absolute favorite translation? It is the ESV. The ESV, hands down, is my favorite edition. One, just because of the word for word way that it's translated. Also, the editions of the Bible that they put out are just absolutely beautiful. The ESV is hands down my favorite Bible to use and to preach from. However, something started to happen when I was leading student ministry. The students started to express that they were having a little more difficult of a time understanding the ESV versus when I would use something like the CSB or the NIV. So about 2 years into being the student pastor here at Berea, I switched back to the Christian Standard Bible. From earlier, we talked about the Christian Standard Bible. I switched back to it, and I got a new copy, a new CSB thin line, as well as some other CSB Bibles that I used. Again, went on a buying Bible frenzy. Actually got a couple right here. This is a newer CSB wide margin. This is the wide margin that I use day to day since I became a senior pastor. But this thin line is what I would use for the next couple of years as a leading student ministry and then in my first several months as senior pastor. It's a little bit different leather than the other one that we looked at earlier. It feels a little more rugged, feels like it's going to hold up a little bit better. I absolutely love this Bible. I'm actually in the process right now that I'll talk about in another video of using a PSQ for a month just to see how I like it. And that month is coming up. It actually ends today. And I'm thinking that I'll probably end up going back to this thin line because I just like the form factor of a thin line. I like how rugged it is. I can throw this in a bag a little bit differently than I would a nicer Bible, and it just takes the beating. So this is the Bible that I've used now since we switched over our student ministry. When we switched over our student ministry at the church to CSB, some of their parents started to buy CSB. We had some other people who were just starting to learn the Bible. Our kids ministry switched over to CSB. Some of their parents switched over to CSB. We had some people who had difficulty reading that I recommended the CSB to. So when I took over as senior pastor, a fairly good chunk of the people in the church were using the Christian Standard Bible as their primary translation. So this became the go-to translation for our church. This is what I preach from on Sundays. Our Pew Bibles are the Christian Standard Bibles. We just replaced those with new Pew Bibles. So this will be the Bible that I'll be in for the next several years because of where we've taken the church. This is a great Bible translation. So that's my journey through Bible translations. And as I said, there's dozens and dozens of Bibles that fall under each of these categories, especially ESV and now CSB. But I'm curious to know, what Bible translation do you use and how did you get to that translation? Go ahead and drop me in the comment below. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope to see you in the next video.